Today I'm going over perhaps one of the most legendary Sentai shows of all time, Chojun Sentai Jetman. I'm going to cover why this is definitely a must-see for anyone, even most likely for people who are into Super Sentai, definitely a must-watch. If some people that are into Power Rangers are looking to cross over into Super Sentai, this is definitely a good place to start. Also, people who just generally love Tokusatsu and just want to get more in, definitely put that on this list. This is a show that is basically worthy of any top 10 list for Super Sentai, for Tokusatsu, hell, for maybe even superhero shows in general. This is definitely worth checking out, and I'm going to go over why I love it, why I think you're going to love it too, and why I definitely feel you should check this baby out. Alright, let's get this show on the road. This is Exile2K. Shine on Facebook. Let's begin. Okay, so the show was initially released back in 1991, and I'm going to give a brief summary of basically quick rundown, mild rundown of the plot, mostly the first episode, tidbits. Okay, so let's start. There's this organization in the Japanese government that apparently watches over the Earth and tries to defend it in any way possible, and they are looking to take this research that they have developed over time and created that they call the Birdonic Wave. It's some sort of wave that basically, when a human is enveloped by it, after the procedure is done, they basically become a superhuman. They don't get too into detail as to how this procedure was created. They just say with funding they created the procedure, and they keep the explanation as brief as possible. It's got something to do with birds, obviously. But Ryu and his love of his life and co-worker, Rie, are the first two selected to undergo this procedure, which, of course, they accept as long as they are kept together on the same team, which they are. It's a team of 5, and Ryu volunteers first to take the procedure, which, of course, looks painful as hell. Doesn't look very pleasant at all. But he endures it, and literally seconds later, just that kind of timing, seconds later, the enemies of the show, Vyram, appear. Basically just, and Radiate specifically, basically demanding everyone on Earth to just get on their damn knees and kneel now and save yourselves the trouble. They've come to take over Earth simply because they can. And they've taken over places before. They come from an alternate dimension. Aliens, interdimensional aliens is the best way I can describe them. And I'm going to get into it a little bit later, but Radier's timing as a villain is just... he's a real bastard. Irredeemable is the best way I can describe Radier. I'm going to get into it a little bit deeper, but look out for this guy because he is perhaps the most messed up, dastardly bastard to ever be made in the history of Super Sentai. It's just, he's irredeemable. But yeah, so seconds later, they show up, then all of a sudden the whole space station is getting busted up and attacked. And just sadly and quickly, there's a crack in the space station, of course, and Rie gets sucked through and just gets sucked right into space. Like, done deal, gone, sucked right into space. Ryu tries his best to save her, but sadly, he's unable to. Even with all that strength he just got, he couldn't save her. And it's something that's going to be plaguing him for quite some time. So basically, the commander, she takes Ryu, she manages to save him, and they leave the facility, and he wakes up in this facility designed specifically for the Jetman, as she explains. And of course, he's obviously worried the most about Rie. She doesn't play around with the fact and explains it to him. She's dead. She's gone. And we don't have time to mourn her. All we can do now is move on and assemble the team, because after the explosion went down, the Birdonic Wave kind of spread down to Earth and hit 4 other individuals. And now we have to go looking for them, basically, which they do. The first 2 which they find of course, is White Swan Kaori, who is actually kind of thrilled to be thrusted into this role, only for the sole purpose of mostly escaping her dull, sheltered, rich life and being a part of something bigger than herself. So she kind of like, okay, sure, okay, sure, I'd love to do it. So she takes it on very quickly. Raita, Yellow Owl, isn't so quick to do so. Like, I don't like violence. I just want to make my damn vegetable garden and just relax. And I don't even like beating people up. Get the hell away from me. Leave me alone. It's nothing to do with me. Kaori tries to stay behind to convince him to change his mind, but very subtly, just basically hangs with him for a while until Vyram basically hits the scene, starts tearing up his garden, and they start wreaking havoc. And that's really what kind of like ultimately pisses him off, because he's worked so hard in this vegetable garden, and he's worked so hard on this ground and this land. And they kind of just start crushing and ruining his blood, sweat, and tears. So that's kind of enough to convince him in the heat of the moment to join the team. Although he eventually crushes on Kaori pretty hard in secret. So that's probably the other second motivational thing. And they basically are thrusted into this battle with Vyram, and they don't do so well. Yellow and White Swan, this show actually shows the fact that these two guys, these two people, they were just given this power today, and they don't technically have any official training. The only one of the starting three, or the only one in general, has any official training is, of course, Ryu, Red Hawk. So it's kind of, I like how realistic that is, because they don't know what they're doing. They're getting knocked around almost the entire time, and the main reason they even survived this first fight is because Ryu was there. If he wasn't there, they probably would have ended up dead. Which is something that, I really enjoy, and it's one of the first things I really like. And basically, they managed to win. In the second episode, when they find the other two members, which is Guy and Akko. When they find Akko, she's very opportunistic. I think that's the best way I can describe her, because like, she didn't even know she had the powers from Birdonic Wave. She just knew she was different, and all of a sudden she was just already trying to find ways to exploit it to make some quick cash. Like how she basically just does this stunt in front of their high school gym teacher, and all of a sudden he says, "Oh, I'll totally just help you be on the track team and everything, help you win, but you gotta pay me like 2,000 yen." And she does kind of the same thing when she gets approached, and she's basically like, "Oh, well, Save the Earth sounds great, but yeah, I do it for like 15,000 yen." It's like Kaori's like, "Well, okay, fine, I'm rich, so here's 10 million." And that's it. That's her allegiance, bought, and she stays. I don't even think she ever quits, ever, which happens quite a bit. And she doesn't do as bad as the other ones did the first go, and I'll deal with that later. But basically, okay, so then finally, last but not least, is Guy, who kind of frequents at this bar. I guess he's a jazz musician there. He gets paid to play the saxophone there, I'm guessing, because it's the only thing he does that even remotely looks like a job. But okay, so when he gets approached, he don't want no part of that crap. He's like, man, I don't want no part of that shit. And he just hates Ryu instantly, because Ryu's just kind of like he's a Boy Scout, more or less. He's a Boy Scout. That's the best way I could summarize it. He's an altruistic Boy Scout. So he hates him on that alone, and then he like takes a cheap shot on him, and probably thought that, this is gonna be easy. I just cheap shot this dude, walk out. Nope. Nope. They get into a brawl in the parking lot, and Ryu starts kicking his ass. He really just starts kicking his ass. And it's crazy. And by the end of that episode, he's kind of like forced into it, because he gets gripped up by one of the villains, and he kind of just is given no choice, either change or die. So, obviously he changes. And yeah, he has some basic Street Fighting knowledge, but no official training. So he has like these weird, dirty moves, like just it's just funny grabbing people's nutsacks or grabbing for something just to kind of just to do vice grips, all this weird shit. But he's just a dirty fighter. But the funniest thing about guys, so when all is said and done, and everybody thinks, oh yeah, we're a team now, and it's great to meet you. Everybody's all like happy and shit, like they're like after this moment, and he just gets up and leaves, like, oh, goodbye. And then Ryu tries to stop him, and he just gets a cheap shot for earlier. He just punches him in the mouth and just drives off. He's that petty. He just wanted to get the last hit on him. It's only something Guy would do. I mean, I've seen other team members walk off, but he just walked off and got the cheap shot just for good measure. Okay, so yeah, so that's kind of like what I found interesting about this team. There's all this inner turmoil, and you have this love triangle or trifecta or whatever you want to call it, because there's more people kind of mixed into there. But mostly the core of it is a love triangle between Ryu, Kaori, and Guy. You know, Kaori obviously has it bad for Ryu, but Ryu still has it bad for his, deceased woman, his deceased gal Rie. And he's still in mourning, so he feels like he just can't betray her, even though she's gone. I mean, he saw her get sucked through an airlock. So, and Guy takes a liking to Kaori, but doesn't exactly like the fact that, she has the eyes for Ryu, and it kind of pisses him off. So he does things to try and get her favor, and he hates it that, Ryu has her affection, but will constantly break her heart just to, not enter a relationship with her. I mean, he does some pretty cold-hearted things to her sometimes, just to keep her distance. He never really, and if he never explains, she doesn't find out till God knows when that, that he's in mourning for Rie. And even when she does, she still doesn't want to give up. So that doesn't stop her, at all. And it's just kind of like that triangle and all these issues. I mean, they even come to blows a couple of times and a couple other stuff. And yeah, so it really focuses a lot on those three team members. I mean, the other ones have their little moments too, but they tend to get drowned out by the other three. Although Akko has had at least one episode that was really, really interesting. And I'll probably talk about that later. So yeah, that's what I like about the team. It's it takes time for them to get hard work, perseverance, and training, and working on the gym, and trying to do drills together and all these things to try to become a full-fledged team. It's earned. It's not just, oh well, we got the powers, bam, we did the move, we transformed, we know every single move of how to do them, and we know how to perfectly work in a unit without any problems. Like we've been doing this since 2001 or something. No. It's not like that here. And I like that because that seems more realistic. It doesn't really talk down to the audience. And that's the thing I like about that show. It's not the type to insult people's intelligence. And it just seems more mature to me. And it's the right way to be mature for a Sentai series. And the villains I also really like because they're kind of the same way. They have their own inner conflict. They don't really have a real overseer that oversees them all. They all feel that they're kings, that they should be the one calling the shots. So they create this contest of whoever kills the Jetman team first gets to rule all of Vyram, gets to be the king, gets to sit in that chair and call the shots. So they're all essentially competing with each other. And they don't very much like each other at all. I mean, the only two that even remotely bond at all is Gray and Marie. It makes sense. You get a whole bunch of selfish, egotistical people who all feel they should be in charge and put them in a room together. They're not going to get along. They should never get along. It's like you have all these other shows where, oh yeah, I'll give you another primary example. When this supposed Vyram Queen shows up. The Vyram Queen shows up and nobody's happy to see her. Ratty A, being the bastard that he is, he basically just pretends to be like, oh, well, it's so glad to see you, I've missed you, and blah, blah, blah. He's just kissing her ass so much, and she's calling him cute and everything. She's buying into it, hook, line, and sinker, and the second he walk away, he's like, that bitch! What the hell is he doing here? I refuse. I won't be ruled by her ever. I'll get my chance. I'll kill her. I'll kill her. And they all feel the same exact way behind closed doors, but they're too terrified of her to come out and say it. And he's just waiting for the moment to backstab her. He'll do everything under the sun to get power, but he's not like the omnipotent type. He's not uber powerful. So he has to kind of scratch and claw for his strength, and leads him to do more dastardly messed up things just to acquire it. And he has that little bit of ego. And, well, a little bit of luck. And he would run his own mama through if his enemy was on the other side of the sword, too. Definitely one of the better Sentai villains because of this. Because he's just so irredeemable. I mean, he even gets a chance, loses all his memories, aesthetically becomes human, and just for a while seems content and happy. But the second he gets his memories back, the instant he gets them back, he just flips it. And just, even the person that he supposedly grew an attachment to, he just outright kills her for the simple fact that she insinuated that he might have loved her or loved anything at all. And Gray kind of is an interesting person. Is interesting in the sense that he could be a good guy, but in reality, he's just not. He just isn't. He's this robot who's like experiencing little things of humanity. It doesn't essentially make him human or a great person. It's just he's greatly interested in these things like, alcohol, smoking, and music. And he goes nuts trying to play the piano and not being able to do it. And Marie plays in front of him incredibly well. And that's when he kind of like gets that bond with her, where he just gets infatuated with her. And, she in turn holds him in pretty high esteem after he saves her a couple times and other crap like that. And they're the only two on the team that really work together. Tran is just basically just a kid playing a game. But a cruel kid playing a cruel game. He often kind of gets made fun of by the others. And then finally there's this man, played by Yutaka Hirose, which I'm not going to get into who he's playing because it's a bit of a spoiler. But he's in this show, and I'm just going to give you a quick heads up. Anything this man is in, from my experience, it's been good. Every time even in shows where his role is like almost tiny and minuscule, every time I see Hirose, the show winds up being awesome. I saw him in Live Man. That show was freaking awesome. I saw him in Die Ranger. That show was freaking awesome. I saw him briefly in Agito. That show was freaking awesome. Anything this man is in is just freaking awesome. And he does great work too, to boot. So that makes it fun as all hell. And when he shows up on the scene, he basically freaking emasculates the three male team members by just beating them at anything they consider themselves good at. Like he gets more women than the guy does. He eats more than Raita. He fights better than Ryu. He just emasculates them all in one episode. And it's just awesome. So basically, I'm not going to explain how he shows up in the scene or who he's playing. I'm going to leave that for a treat. But yeah, every time you see this man, the show's going to be awesome. It's just a given, in my experience. It's just a constant given. And these villains, they play for keeps. You have monsters that lift entire highways and kill everything on the highway and all that other crazy stuff. You got a building that eats its tenants. It's just nuts. And these people, they don't come back. They don't come back. And it doesn't feel like, oh, hey, this is for kids, by the way. It's like, it doesn't. I don't really get that from Jetman at all. I think it's only considered, for me, it's only considered a kids show by association or something, or by pre-designation. It doesn't really seem like they were really interested in holding back much when it's in the series. But it's also done in a manner that is done really, really well. It doesn't sacrifice what it is to be more violent. It's the same, similar formula, but with more mature and non-down talkative method of doing so. Another thing that really stands out to me about the show, and that I've kind of loved, there's certain basic concepts. Like you've seen these type of episodes before in other Sentai shows, but there's something about the way Jetman puts twists on it that kind of make it its own and just better versions of it. The best example I can give you is like the reused plot of the childhood toy. And it's with Akko. Like, in the beginning, Akko basically just callously takes this stuffed animal that she calls Putan, the stuffed bear, teddy bear, and she just callously throws it in the garbage. Like it's worth nothing. And then she's having these dreams about when she was a little kid and her time she spent with this little stuffed animal, Putan, and how much she cherished it. And of course, as you would expect, the teddy bear gets turned into a monster. But it's not evil. So we're going that route. But the thing about it is that the way that this episode approaches it, it just makes Putan so adorable. Even though it's kind of mixed with trash and stinks like all hell, but it has this cute voice. And it doesn't really want to hurt anyone. As a matter of fact, its only power is to repair things, is to fix broken things. And he actually, like, gets to have what resembles a life. You know, he eats garbage. You know, eats garbage. So he lives at a landfill, has a little house for himself, and he calls Akko his mom. He treats Akko like a mother. And it's just so damn touching. Adorable. And you really, by the middle of this episode, you really just don't, you know it's coming. It's worse when you know it's coming, that there's a good chance this bear's not going to make it. And you just, like, this one time, just let Putan make it, damn it. Just let him make it. He deserves to make it. And I mean, the only time he even supposedly willingly attacks humans is when he gets mad at these people who just callously dump clothes in a landfill when there's nothing wrong with the items they're dumping. They're just dumping them. And that's kind of like goes with that underlying theme of our connections to inanimate objects, how we should value them, and how we shouldn't be so quick to throw things away when they're still in good shape just to make room for something else, or just because we think that it's silly to hold on to a stuffed animal because we're like 18 or 16 or whatever the hell, 14 now. Oh, that's kid stuff. You know, it's like, there's nothing wrong with keeping things that are dear to you. Like, and there's nothing wrong with not bowing to societal pressure. And, you know, the ending is just so tragic. It's tragic in a way that, I don't know if it almost made me cry, but it felt like it came close. I really wanted to go well, and it just goes the way it goes. I don't want to get too deep into it, but Jetman has kind of those episodes. I mean, I don't know if I'm going to go into official ratings. I guess I kind of am for this show. It's definitely a must-see. That's all there is to it, but there's more. For the first time ever, I'm going to give it, and unveil this, the Yutaka Hirose seal of approval. Anything this man is in is amazing. He's a walking approval seal. If he's in your show, your show just went from level 1 to 99 just like that. And really, what more needs to be said besides that? So definitely check it out. I'm going to provide some links in the description of places you could check it out and the place you could download it. And definitely check this sucker out. Share this vid with anybody you can. Anyone you think they'd remotely be interested. Anyone who's anyone. And I hope this is helpful to you. This is Exile2K, Shy Sean on Facebook, the man who fits in everywhere and nowhere.